בוקר טוב לכולם. אני מאוד שמחה להיות פה ותודה רבה להזדמנות להיות בכנס הזה ולתת הרצאה. אבל יש לי בעיה שאין לי מילים מספיק בעברית ואני מעדיפה לדבר באנגלית. אז my lecture is devoted to the recent survey which we conducted on behalf of Kamat with Chaim Shkolnik and with the assistance of the draftsman of Rashut Atikot, Yaakov Shmidov. He had applied the remote sensing, and his methods helped us assisted as much in identifying of some of the buildings, and we have discovered and rediscovered different edifices, cavities, and facilities which are dated for a very long period of time, starting from Iron Age, Hellenistic period, early Roman, early Byzantine, but my lecture today will be devoted to the Russian phase, let's say, which started in the beginning of the 20th century. So the place is known as Der Shar or Beit Zahar, and it's also known among Israelis as Menzar Rusi. It's located near modern Gush Etzion, Efrat, and it's located at the equal distances between Jerusalem and Hebron approximately, near the ancient and modern road. It became very well known and famous in the beginning of the 20th century when Arab Afelah found there the remains of the early Byzantine church. And its unusual trait was that it contained the Greek inscription which was mentioned in Zachariah and Ioannos, and it was somehow connected without a profound investigation to the locus sanctus devoted to the birthplace of John the Baptist. It's a long story. Now this identification is not relevant anymore, but in the beginning of the 20th century, it encouraged several confessions, several churches to start a competition to buy this place. And this competition was won by a Russian mission. Leonid Sentsov, who was the head of the Russian ecclesiastical mission at that time, he purchased this site and started the activity there. I should also mention that he was also the architect of all surface buildings, and because before the Tanger he was an architect. The main moving power for the developing of this place was Father Lazar Sudamoykin, amazing person, and we know very tips of the information about him, though he has a historical person known and even photographed in the beginning of the century. We know that he was a very successful merchant in Russia, in Altai, and somehow he arrived to the Holy Land and became in charge of this place in Der Shar. He converted this barren hill into the blooming site with the gardens around it and full of different buildings and a welcoming home for the pilgrims, Russian pilgrims, on their way from Jerusalem to Hebron. This is the map which was drawn by hand by Benedictine Father Gisler, and it reflects the first and actually the single map of this place, and it reflects the knowledge about the archaeological remains of that spot. On that spot at that time, you can see that. Do you see my arrow? No. You can see that on the western slope there is a Roman road, and the fenced area of Russian property is dotted, and at the top of the hill there is a Byzantine church. And this is actually almost everything we knew before our survey archaeologically. We also knew some notes from the Russian sources, historical sources of the beginning of the previous century. We knew that Lazar Sudamoykin and the other inhabitants of the site, they have cleared plenty of tombs. They have built cisterns, and also they have organized a kind of a museum amateur museum at the spot of the church, and this museum contained ancient shafts, capitals, and other remains of the ecclesiastical furniture of the church. Also, we know, this is very important, we know that Lazar Sudamoykin, he built a whole underground system consisting of churches, corridors, and so on. And before our survey, we even didn't know if it's really true, if really these all features existed or not, or it's only, you know, some myths which preserved in the historical sources. This is the result of our survey. We have found 25 features. Only some of them were known before, and we have superimposed them on the aerial photo of the British Mandate period, and it also helped us much in the identifying some of the features in coordination them to the historical sources. So the features are concentrated at the top of the hill at the eastern slope, but the main concentration is on the western slope, on two terraces, upper and lower. So first of all, we have found again the Roman road. Currently it's preserved at 150 meters length, the preserved length of it, and in some places there is even a margins with the slabs still in situ. And this is the first feature which we found at the upper terrace. And it didn't impress us much in the beginning, but then it became something like a crucial feature. It was the cave with rectangular plan entrance and a very small rectangular room. And we noticed that it has also a corridor with the strange dead end, and it was blocked by the cement wall, broken at a certain period of time. And also it had the beginning of the staircase leading downwards, and the meaning of these traits will be clear in the discussion soon. This is the staircase which is leading to this cave, to the Roman road, and it's difficult to decide if it's modern, of the 20th century, or if it's ancient. This is the complex, the next complex, more representative, and it consists of three features. The central feature is a monolith, freestanding monolith. It's surrounded by the ambulatory corridor, and it's flanked by two other features. To the left side there is a cistern. You can still see here a mouth of the cistern, and it was converted into the room by Russian settlers and used as a cell or for some other purposes. And in the middle, the feature is mostly outstanding in this complex. It's a facade. You can see that I can't go too deep here into the profound analysis which we made, but we consider that the initial phase of this edifice is Hellenistic, and we think it's a tomb. It resembles very much the tombs of the Kidron Valley. But in the 20th century, it was converted into the chapel by, let's say, baptizing the facade. The Russian monks, they carved and partially cemented the cross. You can see here the vertical arm and the horizontal arm, and they have also converted the acroterium on Nefesh into the small arm of the cross. And for every Orthodox believer, it's a very clearly and very well recognizable Orthodox church, Orthodox cross, modern one, not ancient one. And the interior was also remodeled. You can see here at the section the chimney. So the interior was heated, and this is some ancient features: the Egyptian cornice, a kind of Egyptian cornice, and the pyramid roof. And this is, oh, it works, wow. This is our results of modeling. The interior part, you can see that the inhabitants of the monastery, they supplied it with the furniture made of the reinforced cement, and it very well resembles the early Byzantine chancel screens. So we think that these Hellenistic tomb was reused as a chapel. We called it cross chapel. The next feature, further to the south, it's the early Roman tomb with the blocked out cornice. And its inner space wasn't finished apparently, but it was reused also as a cell. Here you can see this corbel unfinished and the table made of the cement inside. And this is the next amazing complex. It resembles very much the previous one. We think that it was a copy of it slightly later. We think that the initial phase might be dated to the early Roman period because the same features we can find here. It's again the almost freestanding monolith. The ambulatory corridor wasn't carved to the top, so it was an imitation of the freestanding structure, but the composition of the facade, the pyramid roof, and the cornice, everything is here again. It was also connected to the lateral, to the left, another one feature, which was initially a cistern, and it was converted by Russian settlers into the refectory, we think, according to the furniture. It's a very long table along the inner perimeter with the seats for 6 or 8 persons at once. And this one feature, mostly amazing, and it was served by Kochavi already, and his photo is still the best because everything now is covered with the trees and plants. And you can see that together with the ancient features, there is a sunken cross was carved in the middle and 2 hallowed figures by the sides. And for every Orthodox believer, it's very clear that it's the composition of the crucifixion, very traditional one. And we suppose that apparently into these sunken fields and icons were incorporated and fixed. They're not preserved, of course. And we call this building Crucifixion Chapel. This is its current view, and this is some ancient features of it. And here is the details still preserved. Some of them are eroded, but the figures with the hollows and the cross might be still seen. And this is the interior of this chapel. There are many tables, seats, and so on. And we think that it might be used as a chapel, but also it might be used at the same time as scriptorium, or, for example, a workshop, icon workshop, something like this. It looks suitable for these purposes. And the next one feature further to the south, you can see that it's at the southern edge of the fenced area, and it's the ancient tomb or a cavity with 2 openings, and we think it was reused as the cell of a gatekeeper who was sitting near the gates, red gates of the monastery. Some details, and this is the features of the lower terrace. They are mostly amazing. This is the row of 4 features, and it looks like they tried to make a symmetry with the openings. You can see that the central opening in the middle, F11, it's flanked by 2 small windows and also flanked by a pair of openings. This is 2 features to the left. One of them is the Iron Age cave, which was cleared by Russian settlers, and the other one is a strange, odd zigzag cavity, which is apparently the unfinished corridor or the cell, modern one. This is the feature to the right side. It's a cell, also made in the earlier cave, and it was used also as a cell by Russian monks. We have found some graffitis in Russian at the walls. And this is the central feature. We are the first who saw it, and it was amazing because by its characteristics, it's definitely the church. You can see the apse, the pointed semicircular apse at the eastern, and you can see a kind of a basilical space inside. This one pier wasn't finished, but still it forms a kind of the aisles and the kind of the nave, and a very plain dome, which was also apparently unfinished. These 2 piers, they play the role of iconostasis with the grooves for the royal gates, and this is the section. Here is the church, and This is the spiral stairway which connected this underground church to the future one, which I mentioned in the beginning, with the old corridor with the dead end. So this is the section of these features, and this is the interior of the church, which is very plain and unfinished and coarse, but still it's has an ecclesiastical character. It also contained the graffitis made with the candle. This is the altar space of this church, the staircase, and this is how it looks at the model. Again, it's very strange, and this corridor is again looks senseless. But now it will be explained. On the other side, on the western slope of the site, we have it's a more known. It's an ancient olive press, again with the corridor. And somehow these two corridors, from the western slope and from the eastern slope, they are coordinated according to their axis and their elevation, and they are definitely trying to meet like Tunnel of Ezekiel in Jerusalem. But this work were never finished. You can see that here is the axis is general, and we think that this is not one project of Lazar Sudamoykin, which was never finished, because when the World War first started, he, together with the other settlers of the Russian monasteries, was exiled out of the Ottoman Empire. So this is the unfinished plan, gorgeous and epic and monumental. It's amazing, and it's something very actually usual and general for the Russian culture. We have dozens, if not hundreds, of single underground churches and monastic complexes, but here at the Holy Land it's the only one sample of such kind of architecture. This is some samples of the churches in Russia and Ukraine, and they pretty well resemble that one church in Deir Shar. This is the Iron Age cave, which was reused as a cell according to the graffitis on its walls. And also we have rediscovered, it's the last point, we have rediscovered the early Byzantine church, which was considered to be lost. We just made an aerial photo and superimposed the ancient plan of the church, and amazingly they coincided. The heaps of the stones at the hill, they were considered modern because there are plenty of marble roof tiles around it, but there is still a Byzantine church under the remains. This is the mikveh under the church, which was reused at a certain point as a cistern. And this is another one church which was mentioned by Stiletsky as the early Byzantine, not early Christian catacomb, but it's just an olive press, it seems. And the cisterns, which were built by Lazar Sudamoykin from the stones of Roman road. And this is the remains of the gates. They were looking like this in the beginning of the century. And my last words about Lazar Sudamoykin. After the revolution, the civil war started, and he settled in the monastery, Bezykhov monastery. All the settlers of that monastery were killed, but somehow he stayed alive, and he walked by foot to the Holy Land, and he ended his days at the Mount of Olives. He didn't come back to Deir Shar, but he's buried there in the monastery, Russian monastery at the Mount of Olives, under the tombstone which he had inscribed by himself. Thank you for the attention. בטח.
אנחנו נעשה בסוף, ניתן כמה אפשרות להגיב, פשוט אנחנו לא רוצים לגזול מזמנו של דותן כרגע.